I played 300 days of Stardew Valley MEGA Expanded. It's time to try and reach for perfection. An ambitious goal, but we've got our entire third year to try and reach it. Please do like and subscribe if you enjoy 100 day style videos. And as you can see, we've got Grandpa's assessment before we get started. Looking back at the past 2 years, he seems pretty proud of our progress so far, and I am too. We seem to be doing right by Dreamlight Farm, and now I'm ready to jump into our third year, so let's begin. On day 225, I stepped outside to see we got 4 candles behind that waterfall. I then got some speed boosts going because it's time to prep the farms and we have a lot of land to cover. This side will house my ancient fruit and salal berries, but I didn't realise I didn't have all that many ancient seeds really, so this whole side will have strawberries and cauliflower, and I decided to leave the giant pumpkins there because I like having them around. It got to the evening when I decided to handle Tort's birthday so I don't forget till he's asleep. Birthdays are going to be the key if we're going to have any hope of reaching perfection this year with this amount of friends. I finished off the home farm, then it was over to the Ridgeside farm to plant the entire thing with rhubarb, and with any remaining time, I removed the nearby debris. This task continued into day 226, then it was over to the sheds at home to refill the preserves jars and tend to wine day duties. To make these days easier, I made the mini obelisks, one to put by the fruit cave which houses more kegs, and the other I put by the sheds so I could put the fruit back easier when I was done filling the kegs. When I left the farm that day, I made an effort to hand out coffee to every NPC I passed. This year, I do want to make sure we cover most of the weekly gifting. In fact, it was the main reason for leaving the farm this day at all. But I did check on the Ginger Island farm and grabbed a new key quest for the week. With the friendship points we need to rack up, the loved gifts one is perfect, and whilst I was there, I started buying some of the crafting recipes I needed. On day 227, I donated the snake skull to the fossil tent, then walked home to find the wizard waiting for me, informing me that Morgan will be arriving in the valley tomorrow. I was only home for a quick stop off to fill up my backpack with a load of love gifts. Then it was time to do the rounds, and of course I prioritised anyone who I didn't have full friendship with yet. As I walked into town, I bumped into Sophia, who was looking sad after coming out of the doctor's, so I asked if she wanted to pet Dusty with me, and this seemed to have helped a little. Then it was back to gifting for the rest of the day. I did take a quick movie break with Josephine though to try and help the friendship. She hated the film, but she loved her cappuccino mousse cake, which does sound delicious if you ask me. When I got up to Ridgeside Village, I got a cutscene with Sean where he seemed to have forgotten to do some of the work on his plate that day. Ian was not impressed with him because he was really late for a delivery for Mayor Lewis. I walked into this argument and agreed to go with Sean to keep him company. Lewis happened to be up at the bus stop when we got there. I was trying to figure out if I should cover for Sean, but he apologised before I even had the chance. Lewis took over from there, and honestly, Sean's struggles sound pretty familiar to me. That evening, Alyssa decided to show me her song whilst the stage area was empty. Not that I actually heard it, but apparently Lenny was lurking somewhere and heard the whole thing. She was so impressed that she asked her to perform at the next village gathering. On day 228, I refilled on gifts and got right back to the gifting, and I even managed to complete some friendships this day. I stepped into the Water Research Centre's basement for the first time to find Mr. Aguar's room somewhat resembled the wizard's tower. He didn't notice me watching him doing a spell which looked really intense. I didn't even know he could do magic, but turns out he was just doing his laundry. I wish I could do that. He was pretty angry that I witnessed the whole thing, but when he realised I had knowledge of the arcane, he seemed to calm down a bit. The wizard then came over for a visit to discuss some mystery. Mr. Aguar is actually a retired wizard who switched to studying the water here after they found a weird magical energy coming from beneath the village, which was traceable in the waters. It wasn't a good energy either because it was increasing the number of monsters in the mines. The next cutscene came straight after. The source of this magical power was by this waterfall here. I poked at some rocks in a very specific way. Then Aguar did his spell here and I fell through the floor. I landed in this lush cave with loads of foliage, which was apparently only possible because magic. Aguar was worried about the roots breaking through the bedrock and causing a sinkhole because this might just make the whole village collapse. Now we just wait for the next steps whilst he analyses the soil. When I emerged from the cave, I found Freddy's lost sword. I think I accepted the quest for this like 2 years ago, but I got it reunited with its owner and got back to my gifting quest, then refilled on some of the forageable gifts that night. On day 229, I popped into the wizards to meet Morgan and of course bring in a welcome gift because I needed to get this friendship from 0 to full this year. I said hello to Andy on my way past and ended up staying for lunch, or brunch given the hour. Then I was about to give my final love gift for the key quest when I had several cutscenes at Paula's clinic. The first was with her unpacking, which was weird because it has been years, but we were then interrupted by a medical emergency, so maybe that's why. The next was with Anton fixing something when he fell off his rusty old ladder. He ended up cutting his arm, and Paula couldn't find the iodine solution she needed to disinfect the wound. I had the choice of either being the one to stay here, or being the one to go and get it, and something tells me these two needed some time to talk, so I left them to have their little heart-to-heart. Anyway, back to the gifting. The 50th love gift went to Sunny, but I still carried on with this gifting spree today because we need every friendship point we can get. Over at the hotel, I found Flor hanging out in the hallway in literally just a towel after she fell asleep here, and I don't think she realised what she's wearing, so I made sure to let her know, and she freaked. I mean, I would too, but I did reassure her that everything is okay. I also found Isabel practicing some ballet and being really hard on herself. She's only just got back into it again, but she didn't feel right ever since something happened. But she didn't feel like opening up about that just yet, so I just tried to cheer her up and went on my way. I handed out gifts till I could gift no more, then remembered to harvest those sweet gemberries from Winter. These were meant to be the last items needed for the Haunted Greenhouse quest, but then it just disappeared from my journal, so I guess we'll find out later. On day 230, I forgot to record, and day 231 began with the weekly ancient fruit harvest. I handed out gifts to anyone on the island whilst I was there, then I donated the snake spine I dug up that morning, only 2 items to go for the tent. I foraged at the desert since I was visiting to get my staircases, but when I got to the trader, I realised I forgot to bring the jades from the chest at home. Nothing a quick trip back home can't fix. I decided to use the pineapples and salal berries for jelly now I'd run out of stuff to put in the jars, and the ancient fruit will be stored for wine. On day 232, I brought a starfruit to apples before giving the crimson badlands an attempt. There are several items here I need for perfection, but I have no plans on getting into the cave here this run. If you want to see that, check out my previous Stardew Valley Expanded videos. It was satisfying recklessly slashing through all these serpents, until I came looking for the swell stone over in this area when suddenly the enemies felt overwhelming, so I walked back home. My next stop was the ridge where I found Isabel hanging out at the fishing spot. She opened up about her ballet background and the pressure from her parents to try and become famous for it, and eventually it all got too much for her and she broke down crying on stage one day. That was the day she decided to quit, which both confused and angered her parents, so she ran away to be here with her grandpa instead, and despite it being boring sometimes, she actually enjoys working at the hotel. I'm glad she's doing better here. The reason I came here in the first place was because I needed another fox relic mask. It's not just used for those pedestals. I actually need it to be able to obtain the fox bloom, a forageable for shipping. This item only appears in the Ridge Forest on one random Sunday of each season, and only when you have this fox mask in your inventory. Something tells me this is going to be painful. I fished at this lake before working on this new gifting week, which, as you can imagine, took the rest of my day. That night, I went to sleep with the old foxtail charm in my inventory thanks to a hint from a comment, and I ended up hearing from my grandmother, which was lovely. This was a very cute little Easter egg. On day 233, I was greeted with the first strawberries of the year. Then it was time to deal with a new batch of wine, including adding a bunch of kegs to Grandpa's shed. I know you can actually put casks here, but I feel like I'll make the money I need a bit quicker this way. I then rewarded myself with a break by attending Alyssa's show in Ridgeside Village, and it was really cool to see Sam's band also providing the music. You all know by now I have no idea how this actually sounded, but I was just here for moral support. As I passed by Odd Jobs, I checked out the first Summit Farm upgrade, which needs a wild amount of materials. We'll work on that later, but for now, I wanted to do a bit of fishing in West Cindersap. But first, a bit of playtime with apples. I caught the Dorado and the king salmon towards Master Angler, then it was on to the Junimo Woods to catch the golden fish and the meteor carp that night. On day 234, I caught all the secret woods fish I needed for perfection, then thought it would be worthwhile to buy the return scepter from Krobus, because we know I'm always forgetting stuff at home. I handed out some gifts on my way to Ginger Island, where I planted any taro I had because this was going to be the key to getting more golden walnuts from harvesting. I did check on the key quests too, and I accepted Danger in the Deep, and got straight on with making a start for the rest of the night. It took me the whole of day 235 and day 236, but I managed to reach the bottom just before 2 AM that night to get those key gems. It was time to harvest the strawberries and cauliflowers on day 237. Because it's the egg hunt today, I can't just go out and buy more seeds, so I replanted the home farm with rhubarb because I had enough of those already to hand. I even managed to get all the seeds down and still make it to the egg hunt that day. I bought another 100 strawberry seeds for next year, then I actually made the rounds talking to whoever I needed for the friendship points. I only managed 8 eggs this year, which meant the win went to Abigail. I thought it was time to pass the crown to someone else, and when I got home that night, I still had time to set off another round of jelly with the morning strawberries. On day 238, I headed to Pierre's as soon as he opened to top up on cauliflower seeds. Hayley got her birthday present, completing her friendship. Then I went to handle Maeve's and got a cutscene with her and Zane discussing him taking over Maeve's position, but he didn't think he was ready yet. Maeve did not take Zane's refusal well. She was displeased that he wouldn't shift his priorities to serving the family, but it also looked like she wasn't happy with any of the grandchildren. Yikes. Not gonna lie, that was kind of awkward to witness, which made me worry if Maeve was in the right mood for a gift, but thankfully she took it well enough to finish the friendship. Then, it was up to the Ridgeside farm because all the rhubarb had come to fruition. I had a few more sprinklers with me to add, and this time everything will be replanted with cauliflower. All of the mahogany trees were also fully grown, so I spent some time chopping them all down because I wanted to start gathering hardwood to restore the farmhouse here, and of course, I replanted all the seeds that dropped. After nightfall, I rushed to harvest all the ancient fruit for the week, which I thankfully got done in good time, and I almost got a couple 100,000 from the gold quality fruit today. On day 239, I set up a gift chest for Krobus to house some of the horseradish, and a chest for Morgan to keep some void eggs in. These two are easier to find, and it means 2 less slots taken up on gift spree days. Olivia got some wine for her birthday, that's another friendship complete. Then I made a quick trip to Sprite Springs to see what buff I'd get today, and clear out the secret forage cave for some bonus iridium ancient brew. Gus got a visit too because I was still missing some cooking recipes, so I bought all of those along with a few plates of spaghetti as a reliable gift. Up at Ridgeside, I asked Sean for a quick fence repair, then gave out some goodies to the locals since it's now a new gifting week. Then for my next special order, I picked up Sophia's fairy garden, since I had most of the items for it anyway. That night, I got a cutscene with Lunna and the wizard at her old house, and this conversation I'm hearing is sounding very suspicious. With help from the wizard, she revealed to me that the ancient magic on her was covering the fact that she's actually a shadowfolk. We obviously found this out last year in a cutscene with Krobus, but here we get to see it for ourselves. I didn't particularly like the dialogue options I was given here. None seemed all that supportive, so I just picked the first one, and she told me she was actually from a town called Amui, which is hidden by magic. During an attack there one day, she dived into a lake and woke up somewhere else as a human where the wizard found her and took her in. Lunna had started making a life for herself here, and hadn't told anyone her secret as she feared that if the truth were revealed, she would lose everything. I was happy she finally plucked up the courage to talk to me about this, and I reassured her that I'm always going to be here for her, and just after that, the spell wore off, and she was fully human again. On day 240, I got some wine in the mail from Olivia, which will make great gifts for some of the other villagers. The wizard was also summoning me for a Lunna-related spell, but first I wanted to deal with the weekly wine day and added another 36 eggs to Grandpa's shed. To add to the day's profits, we had another batch of jelly, then I was off to see the wizard. He brought me to somewhere new to test something with the magic within me, and apparently we managed to open a rift at this lake, not that I could see anything yet. I followed the wizard through the portal to another lovely looking place, and because the wizard is too busy, it's going to be up to me to explore this new place. Lunna was outside the wizard's when I left. I told her about what happened, and she was really excited, so off we went to see the pond together to cross the barrier to her homeworld, Umui. A little shadow person approached us when we stepped through the portal. It was Lunna's sister Diana, who had no idea who I was and didn't recognise Lunna, but honestly, she was absolutely adorable. It really did take her a while to realise who Lunna was, which upset Lunna so much that her magic started going wild to the point of partially undoing the ancient magic again. Diana clocked on just in the nick of time because right when she did, the spell restored. But all that mattered is that they were now reunited. After a long catch-up, Lunna had to break the news that she wasn't coming back to live in Amui because she wanted to stay with me, and Diana seemed to be really happy for us. She is literally the cutest. I couldn't find the entrance back to Amui after the cutscenes, so I went to see Clint to open some troves and geodes towards the museum completion, and I got a fair few things to donate that day. I opened some of the Omni geodes I accumulated too, and after several trips back and forth I had 2 new rewards. In a quick trip to Ginger Island, I traded for a few more golden coconuts and delivered a mango to Leo, then spent the rest of the night fishing at this bubble spot. On day 241, I harvested my taro to get some of those walnuts I was missing, and planted even more because I might as well use the seeds up. My banana tree from last year had started producing, so I took a banana to the jungle shrine thing to trade for some walnuts with the gorilla. Then I walked back home to harvest my strawberries. I did have to take a trip back to Ginger Island though because it was Philip's birthday and that's where he was. I was back to the valley right after to drop off everything for Sophia's fairy garden, which for 35,000 gold I feel was definitely worth my while. I asked Clint to open those golden coconuts and immediately got the skull I needed, so the rest of the goodies are just a bonus. Then I went back to Ginger Island for the 3rd time that day to donate that skull, and that was another exhibit complete. Now all I need is 1 snake vertebrae, as usual. Since I don't have that yet, my evening was for chopping cindersap's wood, but I did end up finding the entrance to Amui right next to the secret woods. This is when I met Raphael and Bianca, the 2 human inhabitants of Amui who have been trapped here for a while, but those are 2 more people that I'm gonna have to build friendship with. My wood chopping was officially interrupted by foraging here because I need all these for shipping, and they make great gifts too. Day 242 started with a super satisfying salauberry harvest. Then I rode up to the Ridgeside Hotel to give Naomi a birthday gift and complete her friendship. Being a Thursday, I used the opportunity to stock up on some cheaper deluxe speed grow and prep for summer, where I planned to get 3 harvests of starfruit, which I also picked up the seeds for whilst I was there. On my way up to Robin's, I got this cutscene where Raphael seemed to be trying to integrate with the villagers here. Then I went on my way to buy a buttload of wood for some projects, and asked for a house upgrade whilst I was there. I grabbed literally just a few more hardwood from the secret woods because I also wanted to ask Oddjobs today to restore the Ridgeside farmhouse. I then visited Amui again at a more reasonable hour when its residents were out and about and gave out some initial gifts. This place also has its own store selling some native crops which of course we're gonna need for shipping completion, so I picked up some of everything. In hindsight, I didn't need the saplings because the fruits are very common forage, but I didn't know that at the time and I wasn't taking any chances. I got gifts out to the humans there too, then grabbed one of the new fish I could catch before coming across a little gathering up at Pika's. I got peer pressured into a drinking contest with Paula, who I hear is quite the expert. Stack that up with me not really being much of a drinker and really disliking beer, and this meant this was a sure lose. I stumbled my way through the village to plant my Amui saplings in the greenhouse there that night, and once I sobered up, I came home to destroy my coffee plants and make room for some of the seeds from today. On day 243, it was time for a new batch of rhubarb jelly, which was followed by a short trip to Amui to catch the new fish here towards the Master Angler achievement. I got a cutscene with Bianca in town where she seemed to have found a new friend in Haley. I wish I could gain hearts with people that fast. Then I saw Raphael in town, who just helped Clint make a bunch of swords. I was happy to see them both becoming part of the community, but I was only in town to shop at the saloon. Although I did have to wait for Gus's leisurely stroll to the counter so I could buy a silly amount of spaghetti specifically for gifts. After checking out Sophia's new fairy garden, I went to her ledger and bought the newly available iridium sprinklers to install on the Ridgeside farm in prep for starfruit summer. Then the evening was for a Ridgeside gifting spree because I wanted to kill time to check the haunted greenhouse after midnight. Looks like we managed to lift the curse with all those items. The rocks and stuff cleared up, then Bliss appeared. With the soul now freed, I was allowed to use the greenhouse, but with all the space we already had, I didn't have any plans for this yet. On day 244, I chased Martin down with a gift since this is one of only a few days he comes to town. I wanted to get rid of my spare farm totems, but for some reason I couldn't ship, trash, or throw them out, so I just had to use them all up at once to have them no longer exist. Then I spent this entire day mining for copper. On day 245, I awoke to a strawberry harvest, and since it was a Sunday, I also had to grab the week's ancient fruit, which came with some extra sweet gem berries I planted. Can't remember why I did this though. It's also the start of a new gifting week, so I try to stay on top of that, but we have a lot of ground to cover, and I really don't know most people's schedules. I can never get to everyone in one single day, but at least I came home to the jelly being ready. On day 246, I farmed for coal and iron all day for kegs. Then on day 247, I got another batch of bars smelting first thing in the morning, then had a chat with Linus about his past. This cutscene, I believe, is from the Stardew Valley Expanded mod, and I appreciate them adding to his story and uncovering some of that mystery. He came to the valley as part of his travel, but when he got there, he just got this feeling. He had to make his home here, and I love that. With the chat distraction over, I waited by Robin's counter because I was after some more wood. On a Tuesday, you can actually still catch her for the few seconds she passes this area in the morning. I rode back through town to accept a special order for Andy's cellar before making it back home to place several more kegs for this week's wine day. We collected 243 bottles of wine today, and that number is only going to grow as the weeks go by. I also managed to give Andy all the materials he needed on the very same day, which gave me a very random amount of gold for the reward. Then I stuck around the forest to chop it all down and replenish my wood supplies. On day 248, I forgot about the flower dance and started more oak resin farms in some of the available spaces, because this is now the material I keep running out of for kegs. I made sure to fertilise them all and place paths around them to reduce the tree spread, then I made more rhubarb jelly. As you can see, I added more jars here, anything to help towards the golden clock, and to help prepare for summer, I made some more forage seeds because we'll want to use these to hold the sprinkler spots, though I know these will be nowhere near enough. On day 249, I gathered the last strawberries of the year, allowing myself to really take this one in. I shopped at the Bear's Cave for pine tar and oak resin as I'm now low on both for crafting, and gave apples of starfruit as I passed by. Then when I got home, I crafted and used a rain totem because it hasn't rained very much this season and I still haven't caught the legend. I got Andy to show me his finished cellar project, and as a result, strawberries and their jelly are now worth an extra 25%. I roamed the villages for another gifting spree. You're gonna see a lot of these. It took up most of this day, but I did have a break to check the Ginger Island farm for the snake vertebrae. No luck yet though. On day 250, I gave Pierre a birthday gift and shopped at his store bright and early for way too many parsnip seeds to sacrifice to save sprinkler spots. I should really start calculating things properly. What followed for the rest of this day was nothing but fishing. I had to use fishing buff food, not just to make my life easier, but also because I wasn't level 10 fishing, the required level to catch the legend, so this really was the only way to do it. Annoyingly though, after staying at this spot for the entire day, I didn't hook it even once, let alone catch it. Day 251 was a super busy one. I had the rhubarb to harvest at home and I filled all the spots with parsnip seeds to keep them occupied for summer. I started off some strawberry jelly using Andy's new recipe, then had a little lunchtime breather with the party at Apple's place with the bear. Next on my list was to tackle the cauliflower harvest on the Ridgeside farm. But when I got there, I also noticed that the spots we just set up for the new sprinklers hadn't decayed at all. So I thought I'd give it a go with not wasting all those seeds. But at least on the first of the season, I won't have to scythe all the dead plants, so we should still save a little time. This meant I had time to visit Omui that evening for gifting and foraging. Rober's got a gift tonight too on my way to Sophia's to buy 3 more sprinklers which I got set up on the Ridgeside farm. My last day of spring was for harvesting ancient fruit, salal berries, and some of the new Omui crops. When I got to the Ginger Island ancient fruit, I checked for artifact spots, but no snake spine today. Then since it was actually raining, this was my last chance to try and catch the legend this season. And this time I actually hooked it, but sadly I lost the fish. This thing is just way too difficult for me. My only hope now to get it this year is magic bait and blind luck. The bright side of this day was that I finally managed to hit level 10 fishing, and for my profession I chose pirate because I didn't see myself selling all that many fish. Totally not just for loot goblin reasons. It was a new season on day 253, which means I had to clear up all the dead crops and add speed grow to the soil for the starfruit seeds, which I immediately realised I didn't have enough of, so I dropped into Sandy's for more. When I went to give Bryl a birthday gift, I walked in on a weird conversation. Something about some politicians being targeted for assassinations or whatever, and the governor could be at risk. He didn't ask for my help, so I just gave him a birthday gift and went on my way because I still wasn't even finished with the speed grow on the home farm. I got the starfruit seeds planted here by the early evening, so it was on to the Ridgeside farm which took me the rest of the night. Day 254 was for making more wine and jelly, followed by a birthday gift to Lola which completed her friendship. Since I got everything done earlier than expected, I checked on the Ginger Island farm to remove the new season's weeds. And the rest of this day, I wanted to search the volcano for more dragon's teeth towards the future island obelisk, getting the 10th one that night. This meant I could build that obelisk on day 255, just one more obelisk to go. I popped over to Omui to play some games with Diana and grabbed the new season's forage for shipping and gifts. Back on the farm, I harvested the next lot of salal berries. The nearby ancient fruit is also ready, but I'm ignoring that right now because I'm waiting for the weekly harvest on Sunday. I like these crops to be done on the same day each week. My evening then passed with another gifting spree. On day 256, the next lot of oak resin was ready, so this was the perfect day to put tappers on all those new trees. This means the next collection will line up with the first trees. Jazz got a fairy rose for her birthday, bringing her to 10 hearts, and she wasn't the only one who got a gift because, you guessed it, this day was spent working on friendships too. The idea was, the earlier I get more of these friendships finished, the less I'll have to hand out later. To help with this task, I also want to utilise the movie theatre for some bonus weekly friendship points, and I plan to take Oliver today because I often forget he exists. Only problem was, by the time I got back to the movie theatre, they were closed. I missed it by mere seconds. On day 257, I foraged at Sprite Springs before working on friendships again. I also checked that underground cave for the first time and picked all the Iridian quality fruit on the ground. More amazing gifts. I had to buy Oliver another movie ticket because the ones you give out don't carry over to future days, so I tracked him down and apologised for yesterday, then we headed to the theatre for that movie. Today, this was The Journey of the Prairie King. Oliver seemed to enjoy the film, but he really loved his pizza I got him as a snack, so I'd call this outing a success. Here's a quick look of where we are with the friendships at this point. We have a lot of them to complete, but we still have quite a ways to go with several people. I wanted to tackle something else that evening though, so I bought some magic bait from Mr. Key Shop and took to the mountain lake with some trout soup to try and catch the legend again, because with this bait, I could do it in any season and any weather, as long as it's the right location. After a couple of attempts, I finally managed to reel the damn thing in. Whew. So glad that's over with, but I ended up passing out still fishing here because I had the biome balance quest. I got this quest finished the morning of day 258, my last fish being a sturgeon. I brought a load more stuff to Clint's to open, placed another 14 kegs in prep for the next wine day, and handed out gifts in Ridgeside Village for the rest of the day, which meant I got a new cutscene with Lorenzo, who got roped into a game of tag with the kids here. Let's try shake that reputation of Mr. Grumpy Shopman. I also got a cutscene at Paula's clinic where Anton brought her some drinks for a break at work, and then he asked her out. This is another one of those where we aren't actually in it, so like, how are we seeing this? It is nice to see more to the stories though. These two make a lovely pair, and I'm absolutely rooting for them. And when I got back to the farm that night, I set off another lot of jelly. Day 259 was a Sunday, which meant I could finally pick all this ancient fruit that's been waiting for me all week, along with all the others that are ready as normal. My search for artifact spots on Ginger Island was as disappointing as usual, but I didn't leave the island without giving Leo a gift. Speaking of gifts, this day marks a new gifting week, and whilst I was in Amui, I ended up picking up a few more seeds for each crop because there are some unique cooking recipes here, so I best get these planted. I ended up putting off gift giving that night to hit up the mines for more keg supplies. On day 260, I got right back to handing out gifts, and I never would have anticipated that so much of my time this year would be spent on this, but here we are. This week's movie ticket went to Oliver again because his friendship was one of the lowest, and his loved gifts aren't the easiest to get either. We saw the same movie as last time, but today I got him fries which he absolutely devoured. Then I spent ages up at Ridgeside where most people were up and about, so I had a much easier time working through the gifts. On my last gift stop, I got a cutscene with Gio who was going on about how much he didn't trust me. I'm hoping this bloodline will help win him over. Gotta start somewhere. On day 261, I handled Bianca's birthday before I did anything else for the big boost in friendship points. The main task today was the ancient fruit wine, and with those kegs on my mind, it was an afternoon of copper mining. Look how many I managed to add by the end of the night. The starfruit harvest was upon us on day 262. You have no idea how excited I was about this day. We have time for 3 entire harvests this season thanks to the deluxe speed grow, so I'm definitely going to need more seeds because we also have the Ridgeside farm to harvest and replant. Once I got everything planted, I used the opportunity to clean up the outskirts of the Ridgeside farm. On day 263, I got the golden piggyback in the mail for the farm having made a total of 10 million gold. After a quick harvest of salau berries and oak resin, I headed for the luau. I had a chat with anyone without full friendship, but not everyone else because this would take forever. Then I dropped in my traditional purple mushroom into the pot to guarantee me some valuable friendship points. On day 264, I helped find a missing Baron Munchington who escaped during the night and got into some mischief. I returned him to Ideen, then this day was filled with nothing but gifting, including for Lexi's birthday, bringing an old melon to a cave. When I got to Ginger Island, I remembered to check the west side for artifact spots, but was disappointed once again. I then thought I might be able to drop into the theatre to give Claire a gift too, but nope, I'm locked out for the next few days, so I continued my gift mission at Ridgeside instead. Day 265 was for giving out the last few gifts I missed earlier this week. I was doing my best to fill the max of 2 per week, and this was the last day before reset tomorrow. Even so, it took me the entire day of riding around with Prizzy to get them all done, and I even managed to catch a rare martin in town before bed. On day 266, Diana showed up on the farm to take a look at the place and ask for farming advice. There were some kind of funny options here, but I just told her to use fertilizer. Before she left, she handed me a rare seed which was adorable, but I don't think I'm gonna plant this. It was Ancient Fruit Day, so I took some time to deal with the latest harvest, but before going to Ginger Island, I headed for the Ridge Forest with the Fox Mask to look for the Fox Bloom, but it wasn't there today. And as a reminder, it shows up one random Sunday of each season in front of one of the crystals, as long as I have the mask in my inventory and it's not raining. I got to Ginger Island about lunchtime to grab all the fruit from there and share some mango with Leo. Then I filled up my backpack with gifts for the new gifting week, so I could traverse the villages once again to work on those friendships. Because of that, I got a cutscene with Zane about that argument he had with Maeve the other day. He admitted the toxic family environment, I'm glad someone said it, and he did want to bring some change with his succession, starting with his ambassador job, which he got to help elevate the Amathene name and escape the family and the responsibility that it came with. I used the opportunity to give him a little encouragement. I feel like he'll be good for the place. He decided it's time to be brave and stop running. You got this, Zane, just please don't touch or talk about my hands ever again. The gifting continued into day 267, and I found this random non-friendable NPC called Katerina who seems to be really angry. No idea why, because she didn't want to talk. Island Ingredients was on the board today, the tarot version too, so nothing too painful. Every day I work on this at the moment, I complete at least one more friendship, which means less to hand out next time. I got a cutscene with Kiwi at the community centre who seemed to be a bit down. She was wondering what made her so different from the other Junimo because she was feeling lonely, but she does know she's got Geo and me too. I stopped in at the Wizards afterwards, and I guess this is where Kiwi went next. She was here to try and find out more about her history, and apparently with my connection to the Junimo, I might be able to help with this, so I hung back with the Wizard after Kiwi went home. The Wizard revealed that he actually did know a lot more than he let on about the Dusked cult. Kiwi really isn't like other Junimos, but instead was made for the sole purpose of killing. This explains a lot. This cult are basically tiny, invisible assassins, but I wonder why it ended up that Kiwi doesn't really know about this. Seems this isn't something we'll really find out tonight. The actual reason I was here was to build the final obelisk. Now I have all 6, though technically I only needed the original 4 for perfection. I stayed up late that night to make a start on Island Ingredients and got all the taro planted in the space I could. I didn't fully finish it though, so I slept at the island and got the last spots filled the next morning, but I had to go home right after to start a new batch of jelly and tend to wine day because this lot I'm putting in now will all be starfruit wine. I'm really looking forward to those profits next week. With that dealt with, my afternoon was freed up for more gifting, and when I got to Amui, I hung out with Bianca who gave me the grand tour of their home. I asked about the magic here again. Bianca and Raphael are actually sorcerers, and one day they went near some powerful magic that they probably shouldn't have, which exploded. Then they ended up in the lake here. Surrounded by shadow folk, they were scared, but they turned out to be friendly and even took them in. They've been stuck here ever since. Well, until I opened the portal again. Towards the evening, I attended a concert for Sam's band, which of course, as usual, just silence. Then it was back to gaining those friendship points again. On day 269, Marlon showed up asking me to drop by the Adventurers Guild, so of course that was the first thing I did. He had a job for me, and in return I'll be able to use his boat to visit Lance in the Highlands. All I needed to do was to bring him some monster parts, so the monster parts I brought. Whilst waiting for the next steps, I had plenty of gifting to do along with a lunch at the Amathine residence with their extended family, and honestly, all of them are just as intimidating. And it was all kind of dramatic. Oh my god. The entire thing was so awkward, and I was so relieved to get out of there to return to being the year-round Santa. Before bed that night, I collected my neglected crab pots from the farm and plopped them down at the beach because there were still some fish I hadn't caught there yet. On day 270, Marlon came to give me the good news about the boat. I'll get to it, but first, gifts were my priority, and a movie trip with Oliver again because this was really helping me make progress. His love gifts are a pain. I took the boat with Marlon early that afternoon and met with Lance at his home in the Highlands to discuss the growing of monster crops, since Lance isn't too much of a farmer. I need to gather the seeds from the monsters here, so I got started right away, and not gonna lie, they're kind of quite a bit more powerful. I'll have to be careful. I also made it to the top of the mountain and spent a ridiculous amount of time slaying this absolute unit of a dino. But hey, I managed it without dying. Look at all that loot! One of the items the dino dropped was a key which will help free a trapped dwarf in this cave here. I may have managed to slay that boss in one piece, but apparently these void spirits were too much. I died and lost one of the treasure chests I just got, but it could have been much worse. We had round 2 of Starfruit on day 271, and as you can imagine, a good portion of the day was spent tending to my farms. This was going to be a key to securing the golden clock. Since my kegs would be occupied by starfruit for the foreseeable future, I decided to take some of my ancient fruit and make it into jelly to accelerate those profits. These get replenished each week anyway, so I might as well make use. Then for the rest of the night, I chopped wood for more kegs and jars. At the moment, I wanted to prioritise finishing the jar shed, so day 272 was for coal farming. Sorry, dust sprites. The following morning, I decided I wanted to save half my coal for smelting towards kegs, so in the end I was only able to make 6 more jars, but hey, progress is progress. I can't believe Ancient Fruit Day is upon us once again, and since it's raining today, I won't need to check for the foxbloom in the Ridge Forest because it simply will not be there. Before harvesting the Ginger Island farm, I brought Leo to the pier to meet Linus. He introduced himself by showing he too is a bird friend, and together we managed to convince Leo to move to the valley where there are also other children to meet. Now I could get back to work harvesting, but sadly, after a quick check of the area, still no snake spine. I even debated tearing up all my paths for more chance of artifact spots, but I ended up doing this little area because I was worried about weeds invading my crops. I handled Idine's birthday that afternoon. That's another one complete. Then I placed 13 more kegs in Grandpa's shed ready for the next wine day. It's so close to being full now. I got gifts out to Morgan and Krobus that evening, gathered everything at Sprite Springs, then headed to bed. On day 274, I caught Martin on his way to work with a gift and the dwarf with a rabbit's foot for their birthday, which completed their friendship. I set off some more ancient fruit jelly before attempting that scary void spirit cave up at the Highlands again, and this time I was armed with loads of bombs because there are a lot of ores here for the taking. I even brought my gift spaghetti as a healing food, but even then I still got overrun and died. It took me losing all my life elixir to remind me that I had it with me the whole time. I wasn't giving up today though. I healed through the sheer power of spaghetti and got right back to that cave to slay the last few guards. I wasn't letting that dwarf spend another night trapped in here, and for that they were thankful. My stubbornness paid off. I sped through the cave to the Mystic Stone area for bonus prizzies and ores, then I was back to blowing up the place for the rest of the night, successfully making it back with enough time that night to smelt some of what we collected. Day 275 was a starfruit wine day. I don't like summer very much in real life, but in Stardew, it's definitely the best season. This is going to be a really good profit day, but I did have to fish out a few bottles of wine to use as gifts, putting them to immediate use. Some of them were also for Olivia's elegant reception, and she paid me really well for all the supplies. I can't say no to 80 grand, then it was back to gifting again. When I got up to Ridgeside that day, I checked out the new farm upgrades at Odd Jobs, and whilst these are awesome, most of them are also so expensive, but I love that we also have the option for more sheds. I wasn't sure at this point if I was going to do any of the upgrades yet because I needed to focus most of my money on that golden clock. That evening, I joined some of the Ridgeside villagers for some chill time, officially welcoming Kimpoi back to the village. This was lovely because Kimpoi has been a bit nervous about reintegrating with the community here, but they were all happy to have him back. Then, despite being warned to leave the area by Geo, I headed to the Ridge Forest to forage for gifts, because things like prismatic shards and golden pumpkins now spawn here. Then I went to bed making almost 1 million gold from all that starfruit wine. Day 276 was yet another one full of gifting. This really is occupying so much of my time at the moment. I joined Olivia's reception for lunch, which increased my friendship with anyone in attendance, but apart from Susan, all those friendships were full. I mean, it's something at least. I got another cutscene with Bianca in Amui today while she was helping out one of the locals. Turns out she was only here to hide away from magic practice, which in reality Granny Belia always knew. Raphael, however, did not, and he was really not happy about it. During their argument, they both started emitting this scary magical aura which kind of freaked me out, so I made sure to point it out to them before anything catastrophic happened. Clearly, they needed to have a talk, so I left them to it, but I did take Bianca to a movie a little later on, which she really seemed to enjoy. Hopefully that cheered her up, and it gave me a minute to psych myself up for another event at the Amathine Mansion. This one was much bigger, not just the family this time. This is where Maeve officially announced her retirement and her trusting of the family business and other affairs over to Zane. I absolutely wish him the best of luck, but oh my god, this must be so much pressure. On day 277, I got the last few gifts out for the week and found Lunna in a cave in Amui with her sister. They were having a chat about the differences of her being a human versus a shadow folk, and with my connection to ancient magic, Lunna wanted to try something. We all held hands and Lunna recited an incantation she remembered from the wizard. She was back to her old form again, except Diana was now human. They'd swapped. Diana had no clothes but thankfully was covered up by some magic clouds. It didn't take long for the spell to begin to wear off, so we all took to Amui to prank the other residents and even went into Pelican Town. What a fun little morning. Suddenly, I remembered the deadline for island ingredients was looming, so I rushed to Ginger Island to harvest all the taro. Then I came home to the newest batch of ancient fruit jelly. My next job was the house, adding this corner room in, as well as the south room, and then I asked for the final house upgrade because I'm gonna need that cask recipe. After farming for a bit more coal to smelt with, I hung out for a bit with Lexi in East Scarp, where she told me about some of her past. She used to love swimming in the ocean, but she was also scared of the waves, until one day, there was a human that was swimming here and she suddenly just disappeared. With no thought at all, Lexi just jumped right in to swim after and save her life. They even ended up becoming friends, but eventually she got a partner and moved away. As sad as that made her, she was thankful for the good times, and now she's no longer scared of the waves. I was up this way because I realised I'd not really checked out the cherry orchard, which today seemed to be more of an orange orchard. Talk about false advertising. But hey, they drop at gold quality, which is kinda cool. The house is a little scary though. On day 278, I made another 25 kegs, so the shed was officially full. I knew I wasn't buying the irrigation upgrade for the Ridgeside farm, so I placed some more sprinklers in prep for fall. I wanted maximum pumpkins, and to add to the prep, I bought a load of radish seeds in advance to hold the spots on the home farm for after I harvest the final batch of starfruit. Whilst I was there, I also bought loads of pumpkin seeds. This is literally all I'll be planting next season. Up next, an entire afternoon of deforestation, getting me over 2 stacks of wood, some of which went into more kegs, which I immediately added to the house. Day 279 started with this disappointment of an artifact spot. Where is that stupid fossil? I pickaxed all those old taro spots so that more worms could spawn there. Then it dawned on me. We were 1 day before the end of summer, and I was still crimson fishless, and honestly, I cannot tell you the relief when I caught that thing this afternoon. We've still got a long way to go before Master Angler, but instead of handling it, I farmed for coal in the mines again. Day 280 was so freaking hectic because not only did I have the usual ancient fruit harvest to deal with, I also had to pick up all this starfruit and replace it with my disposable seeds. And adding to that, we had more jelly to make. Because I used my summer forage seeds, I bought way too many radish seeds, but it's easier to have too many than not enough. Then it was up to the Ridgeside farm to grab everything there. But I didn't sacrifice any seeds here, as we found out last season, these spots won't decay. I did still have some prep to do though, because it seems I forgot to till the spots around these new sprinklers the other day. I don't know how I managed this, but I still got through harvesting all the rest of the ancient fruit I forgot about earlier with enough time to attend the Dance of the Moonlight Jellies. I obviously needed every friendship point I could get, but it was also nice to have a little moment to breathe. I did, however, still end up passing out in the field that night planting grass for the animals, because it should grow a lot with the start of the new season. On day 281, I slashed through all the deadness, slapped down some speed grow, then realised I didn't have enough of the stuff. I'd usually get this at Sandy's on Thursdays, but I forgot to prep that in advance. Time to pay the ADHD tax and suffer the inflated price at Pierre's for more. Oh god, it's so expensive. With 2 large farms to tend to, I was planting late into the night, and I only just managed to get it all done in time. This meant that my wine day duties could go uninterrupted on day 262. Look at all that wine. And just like previous weeks, the afternoon was for friendship building. Apples is now complete, and I even met their new friend Peaches, who thankfully isn't friendable for us. We also reached max with Zane since it was his birthday, as well as Kiwi. Then I used a screenshot of the Ridge Forest to check for any valuable gifts. Sometimes I do work smarter and not harder. On day 283, I couldn't help but notice how often I needed to replenish this ancient fruit jelly. Usually this would make me lazy, but the amount these are worth makes it all so worth it. We maxed out Krobus's friendship today, then I joined Apples for another party with many more Junimos in attendance this time. I couldn't stay long though, because I needed to visit Amui to pick up the new season's forage, and hand out gifts here, including to Diana, who was somehow temporarily human again. The gifts were spread everywhere else too, including spending a cinema ticket just to max out Claire's friendship and leave again. In fact, we gave out the last gifts ever to several people today, with a few others who will soon be close behind. Day 284 and I cannot stop handing out gifts, but it meant that after a little chat with Claire, who is now getting involved with the town more, I reached 10 hearts with Susan. You'll see why she's so important later, and I really should have done this earlier. I went to see a House in the Ring with Raphael since he was now my lowest friendship. Then I got a cutscene with Arya, who was finally giving herself a break and wanted me to accompany her to introduce herself to the other villagers here. It was very nerve-wracking for her, but she was grateful to have a friend she considered to be like a big sister. I'm glad she's allowing some more time to take care of herself now. Once I was done with deliveries at Ridgeside Village, I stopped in at Susan's to get this cutscene. This is the one. The life changer. Here, Susan wants some help crafting a wardrobe for a friend, but she wasn't quite getting it right, and I've done a fair amount of crafting in my time, so I offered to help. These look more like drawers than a wardrobe, but Susan seemed pleased with the result. So pleased, in fact, that she shared some of her crafting knowledge. Susan showed me how to craft casks, kegs, and preserves jars with less wood, and it's actually much better than that. I'll show you next time I make them, but right now I have a dinner to attend at Jacob's in Scarp. Eloise came to the door to get me, and wanted me to know that Jacob actually liked me. Kinda awkward, because I definitely don't see him that way, and I'm married, but now I have to sit through this entire dinner? I let her know the truth because I didn't want her to get her hopes up, but that didn't stop her from trying. Dinner turned out to be just fine, but when it came to dessert, Eloise was sure to try and leave us alone, even with her absolute favourite. Jacob wasn't quite sure what was going on, so I was just honest about her playing matchmaker, which he thought was as awkward as I did. He didn't seem to be very sure on the right words, and I could tell he was on the same page as me, so I reassured him that I only see him as a friend, much to his relief. Mine too. I needed to work off that dinner, so I sailed up to the Highlands because I forgot about the fungus seed here, and I wanted to catch the daggerfish towards Master Angler, and also because these are loved gifts for Lance. I managed to catch a couple, but then this mushroom came and pounced on me, which cost me my life, and I had to be rescued by Lance. I'll probably be asking Marlon for the fungus seeds back. On day 285, I filled Brow's friendship whilst he was staring at the bus before boosting Kimpoy's with an iridium quality birthday gift. I rushed to Ginger Island because there were some weeds destroying my paths, and I also wanted to check for the artifact spots, and there it was. Let's get this stupid spine donated, and that was the last piece we needed to complete the fossil tent, so Professor Snail taught me the ostrich incubator recipe, which we're obviously going to need for the Craftmaster achievement. I also collected the last walnuts from here, but the mango sapling I wasn't too bothered about. I was now only missing 2 walnuts. Here I got one of them along with the ostrich egg, and the other I'll need to come back with a slingshot for because it's up in this tree. I'll handle that another day, because tonight was for slaying skeletons for bone fragments, as I'll be needing loads of these to craft with. I got a bit of radioactive ore too, which all went towards magic bait. Apples was on my doorstep on day 286, presenting me with a choice of refurbishing Aurora Vineyard or letting Apples stay there. This time, I chose to let Apples stay. This is their home after all, and I don't need any more land at this point, plus Apples was really happy about this decision. My fungus seeds had come back in the mail, so I got all those planted. Then I realised Martin was in town, so I tried to rush over to gift him some juice, but he already went inside the theatre. I bought a ticket and waited for opening time, but because I already went in this week, I couldn't gain access. Hopefully I can catch him on his way home. Instead, I worked on my next batch of jelly, which triggered me to make more jars. And look at this, the amount of coal that we need is halved too. The stone is also less, so it's not just wood we save. I was happy to be adding another 20 jars to the shed, and got them filled right away. Then it was back to Ginger Island to get the last walnut, and pick up even more bone frags from the dig site. Much easier than skeleton farming, and sometimes these drop skulls, which are a loved gift for Oliver. Those bone fragments went into crafting the ostrich incubator so I could start hatching us a new friend. Then my evening was for blowing up the Void Spirit Cave for kegels, getting some of them smelted the first thing next morning. I wanted to make some more of the kegs, and this is when I found out that this recipe is also way better than first thought. We no longer need copper, so that does mean I wasted time gathering it and smelting it, but overall, this is a massive W. I got 20 more kegs done, and made a single cast just for perfection, which no longer requires hardwood either, but on this occasion I don't think I'll be utilising aged wine given the amount of time left before the end of the year. After helping Morgan and the wizard with a quick demonstration in transmutation, I completed Morgan's friendship and handed out gifts at Scarp. Then I got on with the latest ancient fruit harvest, getting it done that evening. I had a little bit of time for a few gifts after that, but unfortunately I forgot to check for the fox bloom today. I handed out even more gifts on day 288, and we were getting pretty close on most of the friendships now, including some of the ones I was worried about. I got a cutscene with Maddie who was just really rude to me as usual, so I left to go say hi to people who would be a little nicer. Since I now had to hand out fewer gifts, my evening was free to go catch more daggerfish for Lance, but this weather has the worst visibility, so I died in the Highlands before I even made it to the pond. This was rough because I lost all of my coffee, as well as all the gold bars I collected from my furnaces. I really should have dropped these off at home. This time, I chose to rescue my gold bars because I could always just make more triple shots, and gathering and smelting gold takes a fair amount longer. On day 289, I got a pretty broken cutscene with Diana. She was showing me someplace new, I think, but I have no idea what we're looking at. It sounds like some sort of magical cave where I'll be able to grow any crop in any season, so I'll have to figure out locating this place. I retrieved my gold bars from the mail and safely put them away before resuming gifting again. In Amui, I checked out this newly accessible door, and lo and behold, the cave. This place is so cute, and look how much more space there is to plant. I came home and made some more sprinklers to set up there at a later time, because right now I wanted to focus on our biggest wine day yet. Well, technically, every week is the next biggest wine day because we're always making extra kegs. Who needs furniture when you have kegs? Wine day duties didn't take as long as I thought, so I still had time to set up this cave, and what better use could this have than more starfruit? I finished just in time to pass out here, and at over 1.3 million gold, I was overjoyed at this golden clock progress. I emerged from the farmhouse on day 290 to a field full of pumpkins. I really do love fall. I had to top up on more seeds from Pierre's, then the home farm along with the Ridgeside farm took me the whole day to turn over. I ended up just selling all the pumpkins straight because we have more than enough other stuff to process, and this got me nearly 600,000 gold. On day 291, I cleared out my sturgeon pond in favour of midnight carp because I still hadn't shipped any aged fish roe, and it might be good to have a supply of these in case I want seafoam pudding. I had a better time fishing for daggerfish in the highlands today and took a fresh one straight to Lance. Then I mowed down most of the trees in West Cindersap for the rest of the day. I used this wood on day 292 to make another 32 kegs for the ever-expanding collection. We also had more ancient fruit jelly for more tasty extra profits. Then I dropped into the Amui cave to add speed grow to all the starfruit here. Not really sure why I did this, because I want you guys to pay attention to how often I harvest this place in the future. I took Freddy down to Pelican Town and helped him with some shopping, and when we got back to their house, I hung out for a bit, only for Lola to collapse. We brought her to the doctors, and apparently it was from her chronic lung condition, but we're glad she's gonna be okay now. I went to check on her in her super secret shed a little later, and she's making weapons and stuff. What? Seems she is feeling better, and as a bonus, I can now order weapons from here, but I don't really see myself doing this because my galaxy sword will almost always be more powerful. I went round that afternoon to pick up some of the cooking recipes I knew I was missing, and I did grab some salads whilst I was at Gus's too. Speaking of Gus, I still need that tropical curry recipe, and that's only available when he works at the Ginger Island resort. I've not noticed him go there so far, so fingers crossed we can catch him at some point. I do wish there was some sort of schedule for this. For the evening, I coal farmed in the harder mines because the bouncy mushrooms seemed to be much more prolific than the regular dust sprites. On day 293, I planned to blast through all the steps to unlock the casino, but I did quickly buy a buttload of materials from Robin since I was near her place from the train station. I also picked up a crafting bench and a few mini fridges whilst I was there, then crafted another 18 jam jars for that shed. I dumped those beets in Lewis's fridge, then crossed the bridge to Clint's to ask him to open some geodes and troves for me, and I also bought a small quantity of coal from him too. With a few more museum donations, I got some very good rewards, then made it to the desert to feed the sand dragon its last meal so I could collect that casino club card from my house. I didn't go yet though because I crafted my afternoon away so I could find out if I was missing anything, and at this point I was still missing a good few recipes and materials, which annoyingly includes the marble for the marble brazier and a quantity of radioactive ore. I tried to hunt for that ore that evening but found exactly 0. Day 294 was a Sunday, and I wasn't letting myself forget about the fox bloom again. I took my usual screenshot, but there wasn't one this week either. I found out I can get a hint from this bookcase in the ninja house, and of course we already know it'll appear by one of the crystals, but it was the next hint I needed to know. This equation tells us which date the fox bloom will appear. I wasn't about to go work this out for myself, so I got some help from our very good old friend, the Wiki. According to the wiki, the fox bloom was around on the 7th of this month. You know, the one Sunday I forgot to check the forest? Maybe winter. I topped up on staircases before tending to the ancient fruit, and whilst I was on Ginger Island, I covered up those paths we tore up earlier. I also destroyed any bone rocks for potential gifts for Oliver, and rounded the day off with another batch of jelly. On day 295, I bought the desert warp totem recipe. This is probably the latest I ever bought it, but then again, I do just tend to trade them for omnigeodes, so who knows. I came home to craft all the totems I missed, then proceeded to go on a gifting spree, this time completing Josephine's friendship and Kimpoy's too, and even Daya's. It's nice to now have enough time to do other things after gifting, and today I got a prizzy from a bouncy mushroom whilst I was farming for coal that evening. I was happy to find a good few radioactive ore too. Day 296 was another wine day, but it was also the Stardew Valley Fair. There was nothing I really needed here this year besides a few friendship points of course, but really I just wanted to win again. On day 297, I had another batch of jelly to make, and that one jar still processing at the bottom is currently aging some fish roe for shipping. I did a bit of fishing today to catch the blade-tail sturgeon, but just missed out on the ninja frog today, so I handed out my last few gifts for the week instead. I got a cutscene where I overheard an argument between Oliver and Josephine, and I had a chat with Oliver about how sick he was before, but also about how much better he is doing now. He confirmed his mother was in fact the Zuzu songbird, but she gave it all up when Oliver got sick, though she did still enjoy practicing her singing every morning. Josephine had been given the opportunity for a comeback. He was just annoyed that she was still using him as an excuse, and that she still saw him as the sick little boy he used to be. They had a little chat, and Josephine came to talk to me afterwards. That conversation seemed to do the trick. She still wasn't quite sure about accepting that concert, so I gave her a little nudge of encouragement. Hopefully she'll take this into account. Ginger Island was my next stop, where I ended up completing Geo's friendship finally. Then I started climbing the volcano to find one single dragon tooth, which didn't take me very long to find. Over in Pelican Town, I was gonna fish for something I can no longer remember, but it seems I changed my mind almost immediately. So apparently I did still catch this one fish at some point, or I was just carrying it for good luck or something, I don't know. I would say this was for crafting fertilizer for the crafting achievement, but I used a mussel here, so really, I do not know, but can you believe it? We hadn't crafted a single staircase in this entire playthrough till today. On day 298, I told this blockhead to step aside because I have the casino's club card. I started off with 1000 key coins, then spent an absurd amount of time at the slots very slowly increasing that balance, until I hit a 3-diamond jackpot which gave me way more key coins than I could ever need. So as well as buying the alien rarecrow, I bought the statue of treasure because why not? Our bejeweled cat got a home in the kitchen, which made me realise I never collected the statue of perfection from Grandpa's shrine. Whoops! You can join our friend in the kitchen. Then I headed back to the beach to catch a sea cucumber. For today's ADHD random remembering, I went and collected this strange doll here, and immediately donated it to the museum. Then I resumed fishing, this time at the Pirates Cove, but I did get momentarily booted as the pirates rocked in for the evening. This did confuse me for a sec too, bit rude in my opinion, but anyway, I continued fishing until I got the stingray. On day 299, I got the deluxe rarecrow recipe in the mail, which I crafted right away and shoved in a random corner because the farm is already well guarded. I then searched my crafting menu in utter confusion because I was convinced this should have been my last crafting recipe, but it turns out I was missing a good few I hadn't even learned yet. I put that on the back burner today though because pumpkins. Lots and lots of pumpkins. I replanted the home farm, but at this point I realised I was definitely going to make more than enough money for the golden clock, so I left everything up at the Ridgeside farm alone. I have other ways to spend my time at the moment, and I'll harvest that farm when this next batch matures. When I got done with my lazy harvest, I was able to see Robin at her counter because I needed to buy the brazier recipes I thought I already bought much earlier. You can get every recipe on the same day by buying the one that's there and just reopening the shop menu where the next one should appear. Once they stop appearing, you've got them all. The marble brazier should be the last one I needed, but I did open it again to double check just in case because we know what I'm like. I got right to work crafting all of these as soon as I got home, and at this very moment I was reminded I don't have any marble to spare. I'm usually really good at saving one of these, but I guess this time I just hadn't been graced with a second one yet. I checked the rot shop at the Junimo Woods and they didn't have any either. I didn't even want to think about the geode farming I was going to have to do, so I just cut down loads of grass and welcomed our new baby ostrich to the barn, who had decided to name Vanellope in line with our theme. I also thought it was never too early to do a bit of winter prep, so I bombed the feeders to allow me to withdraw all the hay from the silo, storing it all in a chest so I could go gather more in the forest. Day 300 and it was time for yet more ancient fruit jelly, and even better, the aged roe was done this time. Another thing sorted for shipping. I fished at Shearwater Bridge for all the fish I hadn't caught yet, but then I realised that the Ridgeside Gathering was today, so I headed over there to see what there was to buy, and I can't help but take home that prismatic shard. Sadly, after searching the area, I couldn't find a single NPC who I still needed friendship points with, so I asked Lewis if we could just get on with the show, and it was really cool to see Alyssa with the courage to sing here too this time. On day 301, I found Alicia up by the Crimson Badlands selling some recipes I needed to craft. I didn't make these immediately because we have this week's ancient fruit harvest, then I tracked Martin down with a rabbit's foot to kick off this new gifting week. I also dragged him to a movie because my progress with him was definitely one of the slowest. At least we got some friendship points just for the snack. I smashed through all the bone rocks on Ginger Island, not just for potential Oliver gifts, but also because I was still missing the Nautilus shell for the museum. I did not get it today. It's okay though, because we now have a new duck best friend who we'll probably never acknowledge again. I also tried to make good use of my visit to Scarp by attempting to fish in this little lake in Lexi's cave. I wasn't quite sure what to expect because there were no visible fish, but I kept just getting ghost fish, so I left to fish by the cherry orchard where I could see something new, but I didn't catch it in time before it left for the night. Day 302 and you're all gonna laugh at me. I picked up the hay from my chest and headed straight to the desert trader because I thought you could trade these for omni geodes. Nope, it's the other way around. I was just trying to do anything not to have to farm for geodes. I simply cannot portray the disappointment that washed over me in this moment. I really thought this was a big brain move. I even procrastinated on this by fishing. Hello, Ninja Frog. I also struggled through catching a new fish in the Ridge Forest. Then I checked the special orders board I'd been neglecting for like at least a year because I needed several crafting and cooking recipes from here, and annoyingly I needed both of these quests, so for now I just chose exotic ingredients. Just so you understand how badly I've messed this up, Pika actually has 4 of these quests, one for each season, rewarding its own seasonal recipe. I don't think I'll have to tell you the impact this will have. If you know, you know. Anyways, back to fishing. I got 2 more off the list over at Ridge Falls, then foraged in the forest because I'll need stuff for ingredients here. With the forest exhausted of lava lilies, I returned to Shearwater Bridge to catch the kitty fish, then came home to harvest my fruit trees, also for Pika's quest. The morning of day 303 was for money making in the form of jelly and wine. I had a handful of gifts to hand out after that, including Martin, who I thought was working the theatre today, but he wasn't there. Nobody was. I couldn't see him on the map anywhere. I'll get him another day, I guess. I went to top up on lilies and gifts at the ridge that night, where I found Torts who appeared to be stuck. What was he doing all the way up here anyways? For whatever reason, I tried to ask him what happened, but he doesn't respond because he's a tortoise and thus incapable of higher level language. He was still stuck, so I chose to try and help him by flipping him over, but he just sprinted off. That is one fast tortoise. Maybe I should have left him alone? I also needed to fish in the forest, which was as painful as you can imagine, so I caught the jelly I needed and got out of there. On day 304, I gave a final gift to Raphael because his friendship is now complete. I had a quest to catch some special fish from Belinda, so I donated some of what I had, and here's a quick look at what I still need to catch. I hunted for loot in the forest before attempting to fish in the sea cave again, but I kept just getting vanilla fish, so I really thought something was wrong. I did, however, catch the nautilus shell here though. I then found out you can actually fish in these tide pools here, but again, I was only seeing vanilla fish, so I'll look into this another day. That day would be the next day, but I got a cutscene with Lexi when I arrived at the cave. She presented me with some seaweed. Not just any seaweed, underwater breathing seaweed. I guess this is my breakfast then, but this allowed me to temporarily breathe underwater so Lexi could show me this place. I had to make quite a leap to join Lexi right by the shipwreck, but being the loot goblin that I am, I found something interesting labelled with the name cherry orchards. Lexi also retrieved a gift for me from within the ship, moonflower seeds. Another crop. I read the description and these produce pearls, which is cool, but I don't need it for shipping, so I won't be growing it this time. This made me forget what I was there for, so I headed to the ridge where Torts led me to a trapped monster. Geo and Kiwi materialised here too, and they asked me to just finish it off in front of them all. I had a choice here. I could see it was in pain, so this time I just let the poor thing go, and it immediately ran and hid, probably to tend to its wounds. Safe to say, Geo was displeased. He was the one who set the trap up after all, but Kiwi saw what I was getting at. There is no way Kiwi is a true dusked. I don't think that monster told its friends though, because I spent the afternoon fishing here and was relentlessly attacked. I headed for the more peaceful ridge falls instead, where I fished till I caught the lullaby carp. On day 306, I fished in the ridge forest yet again to get the crimson spiked clam, then I swung by the greenhouse in the village to pick fruit for Pika's quest. I fished at this bridge here for the whole afternoon looking for the harvester trout too. I'd now caught all the fish for Belinda's quest, which rewarded me with 69,000 gold.
Nice.
Then, that evening, I finally built the golden clock. You may have seen I've had over 10 million gold for a bit now, but I wanted to wait until I had a little more money so I wouldn't borderline bankrupt myself to buy this. That just served as a small break from fishing, and tonight I found a brand new fishing spot outside an abandoned mine in East Scarp. How have I never found this place before? I even managed to catch something new here too, so I knew East Scarp's fishing wasn't completely broken. On day 307, I braved the Crimson Badlands with the help of a lightning elixir I brought from Camilla to pick up some of the stuff on the ground for shipping. When I located the giant corrupted serpent, I also added a barbarian elixir which increases your attack power and took on this beast. It's no easy task with the amount of other monsters that join in. I spent almost half a day fighting this damn thing when I died by running into it. Aside from my dignity, I didn't lose anything too upsetting, so I healed my soul with a magic rock candy and tried again with some energy tonic in the hopes that it hasn't reset its health. It's the way I so casually walk away from the scene for me. The reason I even approached that giant terror in the first place was to pick up the swellstone in this bony graveyardy area. Then we switched up the vibe by fishing for the fairy betta in East Scarp. After a quick stop at the beach to refill my crab pots, it was time for the Spirits Eve festival. I got some bonus friendship points in with Martin, then struggled my way through the maze to reach the golden pumpkin, which meant this loot goblin went to bed happy. My scythe worked very hard on day 308 because we had the usual ancient fruit harvest, but we also had all the pumpkins, not just on the home farm, but also the Ridgeside farm. It was a little painful revealing all that deluxe speed grow we wasted completely due to pure laziness, which, speaking of laziness, I didn't bother with another batch of ancient fruit jelly today since we aren't in desperate need of cash anymore. With all the harvests done, I rode around for the rest of the day in the Ridge Forest looking for more lava lilies for Pika's exotic ingredients quest. I got my 20th one that night, so I came home to feed the fixer eels now occupying my fish pond because we need these for that quest and some recipes too. Winter had arrived on day 309, and the first thing I did was catch more Ridgeside fish. I wanted to catch a fresh eel before I handed in all the ingredients for Pika's quest. I got out the few gifts I needed to, then bought cooking ingredients in bulk from Pierre's. Way too many, but easier than making a second trip later on. I brought these home to craft all the modded elixirs, thinking that these were all I had left, but no achievement because I still didn't have the marble, and what I didn't know is that I was still missing some recipes. I got a cutscene with Lunna when I went to put away the groceries, and she proposed a fun little picnic date in Nimue since she loves food as much as I do, and she's never had one before, so we'll have to go for that tomorrow. This afternoon ended up just being me checking what I needed for cooking and transferring them all to the fridge so I can cook everything at once. By the evening, I remembered to check Ridgeside's special orders board, and I was pleased to see geology research offered because there was a crafting recipe I'll need as the reward. I actually had the exact number of omnigeodes in a chest at home, so I was like, perfect, an easy win, but when I went to drop them off, nothing happened. Turns out Mr. Aguar is a man with standards. Fresh geodes only. I should have known better really. From there, I went to see what Belinda did with all those fish I gave her, and now we have a new passage to check out. Here is a new magical pond. This allows us to recatch those fish we donated in this spot. This would make some of them easier than catching them in the forest, but apparently, if we overfish here, there will be dire consequences. Somehow, I don't see this being too much of an issue for us. On day 310, I got excited for the picnic, so we went and had it for breakfast. It was kinda cute in the snow. Here, she taught me how to craft a lucky mint, whatever that is, but I need it for perfection, and it sounds like she might have invented it with a wizard. That fueled me for my first visit to Skull Caverns of the year. Can you believe it? I feel like this is the longest I've ever been without going there after unlocking it. I didn't really care that the day was lacking in luck because I was just here to gather as many omnigeodes as I could, or exactly the amount I needed for Mr. Aguar's quest because as soon as I stepped onto the next floor, I was out there. For some reason on this evening, I did a quick check for what I needed for shipping. I wish I did this earlier because as you can see, I'm missing the green mushroom. You can get this item from the green mushroom monster in the Highlands, which only appears when it's raining in every season except this one. Yup, it's now impossible to achieve perfection this year, but we're gonna get as close as we can. The first thing I did towards this that night was try to obtain the Umui cooking recipes. When I got to the lake, I got a cutscene. Bianca just wanted to vent to me for a bit about not wanting to be a sorceress anymore. Her magic is very much connected to her emotions, and she basically just wanted to be able to, feel things. I encouraged her to follow her heart and take all the time she needs, and she asked me to also be there when she decides to tell her family. She then, in another cutscene, taught me how to craft an embrace fruit, which sounded weird. Then Raphael taught me to craft a haste pill, which sounded questionable. I didn't find the cooking recipes here tonight, but what I did find was Raphael's shop I didn't know existed. Look at these weapons. I ended up picking up the hammer because the damage on this thing is kinda ridiculous. I came back home after that to carry on sorting through ingredients. Oh, and I ended up ignoring wine day from now on because I'm not so fussed about the money anymore. On day 311, I gave Rosa the chaos she asked for a long time ago. Don't really know why I did this at this point, but also where am I going? What am I doing here? I don't know, but my next stop was to Clint's to open all of those omnigeodes, hoping for marble and museum pieces, but no luck at all. I stepped back into Scarp to get a cutscene with Rosa. We poked around the house of the cherry orchards together, and I found out that Rosa can see the Junimo too, not that she seemed to know what they are. We found out that we could move this bookshelf here, which revealed a hidden trapdoor. Only problem was it was rusted shut, so I'll have to come back with some oil. Looks like I was clearing my journal today because I called into Idine's with some flowers she asked for. Not sure when, but at least I'm here. All too late it seems, because she wasn't exactly happy to see me, and she said she might have wasted my time. To make it up to me, she let me in on a secret that it's her that makes the bouquet sold at Pierre's, and not only that, she taught me how to make them. Yup, another crafting recipe. I still hadn't caught a lingcod, so I grabbed one of those at Shearwater Bridge, then I re-entered the cherry orchard house once it opened again for the night and added the oil to loosen the door, but then I heard someone down there with a sword. It says to come back tomorrow, but I'm not scared. I need to know what's in there. I was greeted by loads of slimes and oh my god, this hammer is ridiculous. There was a mini quarry area, but most importantly, there was this fishing spot which I needed to catch the red herring from. The doors at the top aren't labelled, but they're meant to link up to other places from related mods which I don't have, so it just puts me at the mines. I went to tell Rosa how I got overexcited and went in without her, and she didn't seem too mad, just concerned. I showed her this ruby ring I picked up in there, and she recognised it from the journal she read. I also told her about the letters on the ground that I 100% totally definitely read, so she figured out what the owner of the cherry orchards must have done with her life. She wanted to come and see the cave for herself, and she seems to think this was used to smuggle goods from the Gatoran Empire. I wonder if this is how the travelling merchant operates. Anyway, she ended up taking the notes with her to compare them to the journal, and I was happy not to be the one doing all the reading. Before I left, I picked up any geodes towards the museum. On day 312, I collected the abundance of flowers at Sprite Springs before wanting to check a movie for those cooking recipes, but I got a cutscene instead. Here I met Raphael and Bianca's mum. Bianca used the opportunity to tell her family she doesn't want to be a sorceress anymore, but Esmeralda just wasn't having any of it. She didn't think this was anything other than a temper tantrum. Bianca ran off to the cave, and her magic was starting to go wild with her emotions, so now we really have to try and calm her down. She tried to explain herself a bit more to her brother, but then her magic began to overflow. Seems this is what it took for her mother to take her seriously. Turns out her reaction earlier was more out of shock than anything, and now she can accept her decision. That all made me forget what I was doing, so I went to Ridgeside Village to check the board, even though I already completed this week's quest, but I did deliver 10 sunflowers to Trini whilst I was there as part of clearing my journal. This day was a little bit annoying, because I had to tend to something in real life, so I had to go to sleep stupidly early. On day 313, I tried sticking out some fishing at East Scarp's tide pools with some magic bait because I wanted to see if it was just a matter of patience, and of course it was. But it also didn't help that the visible fish mod doesn't show these here. After several in-game hours, I wanted to check if I handled all the gifts I needed when I found something truly horrifying. Are you kidding me? I absolutely freaked out and immediately went to try track her down for a gift, but she wasn't in town today. However, I will find out at some point later that her friendship isn't actually required for perfection. She just shows up in the friend list because she has been given gift tastes. Since she wasn't there for now, I resumed fishing at the tide pool, which got me warmed up enough to catch the mutant carp that night. On day 314, I went to East Scarp's abandoned mine with a brand new mod in my armory. This is the Fishing Info Overlays mod, and as you can see, I can see the percentage chance to catch each fish available here. Not only that, but it also tells you which fish is on the line during the minigame. This will serve just to save me real life time, because I was only interested in catching what I needed for Master Angler. I could tell if a fish was new if it was slightly greyed out, and I think this is a mod I'll have to choose to have in more of my future playthroughs. But of course, I also had some help from the wiki to narrow down some of the locations. The king carp, for example, can only be caught in this spot here. It's also kind of a pain. It also means I can show you what can be caught in this tide pool here, but this time I'm using regular bait, and another nifty feature is being able to see the durability of your bobber. One more new fish later, and I moved into the sea cave where I got this cutscene, meeting Lexi's little seagull friend who already seems to hate me. Hopefully we can change that, but right now I was here to catch the 2 fish I could now see on the overlay. Because of the chances on these, it did take a while, but now this cave is complete. On day 315, I gave Lance a final gift to complete his friendship and raided his room to get this Diamond 1, which meant I recently completed the Monster Crop quest, but I can't remember when. He beat me home that morning. You sense Lance at the front door. I wonder what gave me that impression, but he asked me to meet him on Ginger Island at my earliest convenience. I completed Oliver's friendship today too, then fished at the abandoned mines until I caught the obsidian moor. After that, I felt ready to meet Lance on Ginger Island, and with this portal he took me to Fable Reef where the first Slash Guild is stationed. Lance introduced me to everyone here and showed them the monster crops which I grew, which they were pretty amazed at. Then I was returned to Ginger Island for now. We'll get access again another time. That's my break over with, so I thought it was time to take on the glacier fish. This is one of those ones I was procrastinating, but no more because we caught it today. That made catching all the new fish in the mutant bug lair feel quite a lot easier, and from there I moved on to the mines to catch the ice pip, but I ran out of time before I could catch the stonefish. On day 316, the wizard appeared to grant me use of his warp to first slash. I went there right away to grab a golden ocean flower to ship and to catch the torpedo trout for Master Angler. After the embarrassment of the previous years, I was determined to redeem myself at the Festival of Ice, and with a whole 5 fish, this was the year I finally managed to beat Willy. I started day 317 with a gift to Esmeralda because I still didn't know I don't need to get to 10 hearts with her. And in another heart attack, I found another new guy who is Bianca and Raphael's father on the list. Again, I don't actually need him, and this is actually a peculiarity with the Lunna mod because he doesn't actually become friendable until you date Raphael, which we're obviously not doing. I don't find this out for a while though, so don't be surprised if you see me go looking for him later on. I popped to the mines to grab a few radioactive ores so I can make more magic bait because today I wanted to catch Ridgeside's own legendary fish. I needed help from the wiki here because the overlay doesn't show these, but thankfully there's a guide with the exact tiles you can catch them from. These fish are no joke with their difficulty. I popped home to make some fried fish a la Ridge, which gives +5 fishing to help me, but then the fish didn't appear for me again till nighttime after the food wore off. I somehow still managed to catch this waterfall snakehead anyway, then before bed I cleared out the mutant bug lair because I actually ran out of bug meat for magic bait. On day 318 I realised I forgot to check the Ridge Forest the first Sunday for the fox bloom, but I breathed a sigh of relief when I checked the clue which told me it'll be around on the 21st, so we haven't missed it. I fished in the village to catch my next legendary, then bought all the fishing related foods at Pika's because I still have more to catch. Annoyingly, my next one was in the Ridge Forest, so not only do I have a difficult fish to contend with, I had all these monsters too, but I still successfully reeled it in that evening and even managed a very well behaved shiny Lunaloo on Ginger Island that night. I opened loads of geodes the next morning, but I only got one item I needed, so I spent the entire day in Skull Caverns farming for more, plus I was really enjoying the break from all that fishing. This meant I could take another 58 Omni geodes to Clint's the next day. I didn't get anything for the museum today, but I did get the marble I needed, so I crafted the marble brazier, but I'm still missing crafting recipes. I've been refilling these crab pots pretty much daily hoping for the crab, but I've not been having any luck, so I bought another 16 from Willy and set them all up. Hopefully these will do it. I got back round to catching the stonefish this afternoon, then I had a pretty hard battle with this gemfish, which is honestly harder than many legendaries. I even did more fishing at the witch swamp for another void salmon to cook with, and the ridiculously annoying void eel. Then it was over to the Crimson Badlands for the bonefish and the undead fish. I really did leave all the fishing till last, didn't I? Because I also caught the pufferfish on Ginger Island that night. On day 321, I finally got that crab, which was the last thing I needed for Master Angler. I got the banana pudding recipe from the island trader, then this is the day I confirmed I don't need to befriend Esmeralda and Salvador, because as you can see, Great Friends is now at 100%.
Nice.
I came home and figured out the last things I needed to craft, so that's another big milestone complete. Then I spent some of this day clearing out my journal some more because it was now stressing me out. These past few days have been jam-packed full of progress, so for this evening, I spent some time adding some paths and stuff to areas I'd missed in previous years. Not sure what mod that mini-map is from, by the way, it's just a keybind I keep accidentally pressing. On day 322, I got the fishing star drop in the mail from Willy, just one more to go. I attended Morgan's big test in West Cindersap today, which he passed with flying colours, and now my animals will produce higher quality products. Not that it matters for me at this point. I was only in this forest to buy some more pine tar because I wanted to make another rain totem as a last ditch effort to try for the green mushroom. A fatal mistake. Pay attention to the date. Tomorrow is the night market. It cannot rain on festival days, so I've just wasted that totem, and I haven't realised this yet at this point. Blissfully unaware, I bought some bombs from the dwarf and spent the rest of this day in Skull Caverns farming for geodes again, but I left for the night having only gathered 26. It's something, I guess. On day 323, I accepted the Winter Exotic Ingredients quest for the new wheat, and here's everything I'm gonna need. I did some foraging towards this, and I couldn't help picking up any valuable loot. Like, who am I to pass up a prismatic shard? Then I worked on catching the mountain whitefish for the same quest too. I headed for the night market as soon as it started, because obviously today I did realise it wasn't raining because of this festival. To add insult to injury, I ran out of truffle oil, and I hadn't saved any truffles either. Pigs don't produce in winter, so my only hope at attempting the green mushroom before the end of the year would be if the merchant could bring me the truffle or the truffle oil. I know you can also get rain totems in Skull Caverns, but the chances are very slim and I had other things I wanted to do at the moment. Unfortunately, our first trip to the merchant was truffleless, so I just hunted for geodes in the normal mines instead to get a few frozen geodes and magma geodes. I took all the ones I had to Clint's on day 324, but I still didn't get what I needed, so for now I just caught the rest of the whitefish. It then dawned on me that I still had one more monster slayer goal, the magma sprite, so I handled that whilst covered in monster musk, successfully hitting the milestone that night. From there, I whizzed off for another disappointing trip to the night market. Day 325 began with another foraging session in the Ridge Forest for the exotic ingredients quest. I fished in East Scarp for ingredients for my own cooking because I decided today would be the day I handled the bulk of the cooking. This also meant I could gather a list of ingredients I was still missing, and sadly one of them did end up being out of season forage, so that's another thing that will bleed into next year, but for now, the majority were done. My final day of the night market got me absolutely nothing. Then I came home to plant some tea saplings indoors because I need a load of tea leaves for a quest to unlock the matcha latte cooking recipe. Really feeling the effects of ignoring that Ridgeside special order board now, then I farmed geodes till I passed out. On day 326, I bought some aged Blue Moon wine from Sophia because I changed my mind about Skull Cavern. I was also armed with over 300 staircases, so let's see if I can get those rain totems. I came across a whopping 35 treasure floors over a total of 434 floors, each of varying quality and with a strange amount of purple slime eggs, but alas, no rain totems at all. I did also get some geodes that day, so I gave Clint my business once again, and this time I was able to add to the museum collection, so now we just have one thing left. The travelling cart got back to being useless on land again, then at long last I remembered to buy those cooking recipes from Amui, and got them cooked right away. Now I'm just missing those Ridgeside special order recipes, and I noticed something wrong with this autumn dewdrop juice here. It doesn't even come up on the stove to be able to cook. I chose to ignore it today because my brain was frazzled. I'm also still missing the tropical curry recipe. Who knows how many times I've now missed Gus on Ginger Island. I was trying to tie off those last few recipes I could do for now when I realised I accidentally used my void salmon and my void eel, and these aren't exactly the easiest fish to catch, but today they could have been much worse. I was then in for a kind of chill evening of dodging monsters and collecting forage at the Ridge Forest, and that night I gathered enough of what I needed to turn in Pika's quest. Now I just need the spring and summer ones. On day 328 I farmed for frozen geodes because these are my best chance of getting the last museum piece I need. I took a break to get Clint to open what I managed to gather just before he usually closes, but no luck yet, so I headed back to the mines to keep gathering late into the night, coming home with 18 more geodes. Day 329 was hopefully Foxbloom Day, so I was straight into the forest with that mask, and this time there were these adorable little foxes, one of which gave me another foxtail charm. I took myself a screenshot to help locate the Foxbloom quicker, and there you are, you little rascal. I beelined straight to it, finally. Look at the price of this thing too. Straight into the shipping bin it went, then I got Clint to open yesterday's geodes, but once again, I basically got a load of trash. Back to the mines I go, I guess. I thought 20 more geodes would be enough, but nope, so we rinsed and repeated till the kyanite finally showed up the morning of day 330. I wasted no time in adding that to the museum to complete the collection and collect that star drop. This is our 7th and final star drop. With that taken care of, I decided I wanted to reattempt getting the rain totems from Skull Cavern, but this time I only had about 80 staircases, so I didn't get through anywhere near as many floors, which in turn means much less treasure. I passed out on floor 275 that night, which is still decent, but no rain totems yet again. Here's the loot review from the next morning, not including anything I threw away. I wanted a bit of a break from all the rushing around, so I shopped at the Junimo Woods for some cute little decorations. They do just look like dead plants at the moment, but I promise they turn cute in other seasons. I also brought a good quantity of grass starters from Pierre's because I didn't want to make my own. Then I kicked off some light decorating with a border situation around the golden clock, but because of the big tree, I had to adjust things a little. A lot of the void space is being filled with grass, which I can do thanks to the winter grass mod, and with a little bit of this over here and a bit of that over there, I got the farm to a place I was happy with, and I'll reveal it all at the end because then all the little decorations will be like, you know, not dead. On day 332, I went to Harvey's as soon as he opened to buy the stamina capsule and the sports drink because this is the only way to get them for shipping. Now I really do just have the green mushroom left. I actually decided to work on the wine today for no other reason other than I just felt like it really. Then I added some greenery to this corner here because I forgot about it yesterday. Any spare grass starters I had left went in the animal fields and prepped for spring. Day 333 was the Feast of the Winter Star. I brought a very old cup of coffee to Harvey. We'll call it aged coffee, and he seemed to love it all the same. My gift giver this year was Demetrius, and he got me some deluxe speed grow. A decent gift, even if I'm not growing anything right now. After stealing a tea leaf from Caroline on day 334, I demolished every single mahogany tree on my Ridgeside farm. I also crafted 50 cherry bombs because on this day, I asked Odd Jobs to build me the ore area on the Ridgeside farm just for fun. I visited Ginger Island to make a bunch of 4 seeds because I was considering asking them to do some of the other upgrades later. Then I added a path to my secret ore cave at home because this was another area I forgot to decorate earlier. The rest of this day was just me gathering materials for reasons I truly cannot remember. On day 335, I felt like making some more ancient fruit jelly. Then I brought some grass starters to Ginger Island to fill the space here. The long grass looks better than the dirt to me, but as per tradition, I won't be decorating the Ginger Island house. It will stay empty. If you know, you know. I did a quick perfection check and we're so painfully close on everything. Some locked behind future seasons, but huh? I'm not a monster slayer hero? What are we missing? Oh, it's the Pepperexes. Oh no. Obviously, only one way to fix that, but for this Skull Cavern strip, I had absolutely no staircases, so I was a little worried. I did wish I knew this on my previous runs because I went past so many prehistoric floors and they can be a pain to find when you actually want them. I did get one of these that afternoon, but it literally only had one dino. Thankfully though, these can still spawn on normal floors, and in a stroke of luck, I got one more prehistoric floor where I slayed my last dino and made it home to bed just in time. By day 336, I'd officially done everything I could towards perfection for the year, and here's where we're at. It actually hurts to look at. I found another small spot I forgot to decorate, then I thought maybe I should just relax today and hang out in this pond here. Trouble is, it was freezing, so I got out pretty quickly and headed to the heated bathhouse instead. I don't stay still very well though, so I ended up swimming laps for a while, then I popped up to the Ridgeside farm to see the ore area, but it wasn't finished yet. The brothers were still working away. I ended up loitering around the village until the Ember of Resolutions festival. I can't believe how close we got to perfection in our 3rd year here, but I'm also definitely kicking myself for not making use of the Ridgeside Special Orders board because this would have actually made it possible. At this point, I don't feel like I'm going to have enough to fill out every single day of a 4th year, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to find out together in this video today how long it takes me to eventually reach perfection. So let's get into our 4th year, and I'll just check in with you on the days I'm not just sleeping. Before I show you what I did on day 337, let me show you the finished farm. I'm leaving it cropless because I don't need the money and I don't know when this will end. I'm no decorating pro, but overall I'm happy with how things turned out. I headed straight for the Ridgeside Special Order board to find none of the quests I needed, then I foraged in the forest in prep for those exotic ingredients. This was enough time for my pigs to find me a truffle which went straight into the oil maker, then it was off to bed for me. I collected the truffle oil on day 339, but I didn't turn it into a rain totem because I could see rain was forecast for tomorrow. Tomorrow had arrived and I was straight into the highlands, which had some awful visibility once again. Chasing down a green mushroom in this weather was a struggle, but as soon as I got it, I was out of there to get this thing straight in the shipping bin. Then it was back to bed so I could wake up the next morning and get the full shipment achievement. I don't even know why I stepped outside because I just turned back around to go to sleep again until day 344 when I checked the Ridgeside board again. I'm looking for either exotic ingredients or morning hobby, neither of which showed up. I accepted the hotel power backup for some reason though, no idea why because I won't be doing it. I went back to sleep again until day 351 for the next board refresh. Again, nothing I needed, but I did accept the charity wishlist quest I failed in the past. I actually had everything at home all ready to go, so I donated it all right away in exchange for 80 grand. A pretty decent quest if you just happen to have the stuff. I resumed my slumber till day 358, and for this entire week, I'll be getting up to harvest tea leaves in prep for the morning hobby quest. You'll see what I mean whenever it crops up, but I thought I'd tell you now because I don't think you need to hear about this on the days where it's the only thing I do. I was relieved to finally find the spring version of exotic ingredients today, so this morning was for gathering the ingredients I needed, but I did also go view a cutscene at the Amathine residence as a result of our animal product donation, and basically the wider reward is access to a loan of 500 grand for the farm if we need it. I do feel like this is a bit redundant at the point where you're able to hand off the amount of animal products for that quest though, but hey, now we know what it does. The only thing I was really missing for Pika's quest was this fish, and I stayed out to catch a second one because no doubt I'll need it for the recipe. I dropped off all the ingredients that afternoon and went back to bed. I'll need to return to his restaurant at a later date to buy the recipe we unlocked for this. I ended up doing this on day 363 because I also realised today that I still needed to catch Gus on Ginger Island for the tropical curry recipe. From this day on, I'll stand and wait every day to see if he goes, so I'll tell you whenever we end up getting it. You have no idea how relieved I was when this ended up being the very next day. I almost couldn't believe it. Now we just need 2 more recipes from the Ridgeside special orders. And we got the next one we needed the day after that, the morning hobby quest. This needs 100 coffee beans and 50 tea leaves, so I brought them to Olga's kitchen, which meant the recipe became available via mail the next morning. A cup of coffee and a green tea isn't exactly what I expected for this, but I'd definitely still drink it. My next day out in the open was day 372 for an unsuccessful board trip. In fact, the exotic ingredients quest didn't appear the week after that, or the week after that, which means we run out of summer Mondays this year, and this is the last recipe I need. I didn't feel the regret any harder than this moment right here. I slept again till fall, and whilst I didn't need the request board this season, I did need to pick up some Highland chards because I didn't have enough to cook with, so that would have been the other perfection blocker for last year too. I cooked these on this day too, so now all I have left is the Summer Mountain Blessing. This meant I needed to sleep all the way through to Summer 1st, Year 5. Full disclosure though, since literally all I'd have to do is sleep, I installed the CJB cheats mod to skip time to Spring 28th to sleep into Summer 1st. This was just to prevent me going to bed and hitting yes like 50 something times in a row. I promise you though, this was its only use. For this first Monday, I had no luck with the board, and the quest didn't actually come up until day 498, the last Monday of the season. My heart would literally be racing every time I approached the board at this point. Like last time, it took half the day fishing to get everything I needed, including another fish for myself to cook the dish. Then I placed all the ingredients in the box that evening to complete that quest. I bought the recipe from Pika's the next morning and went straight home to cook it. There it is, the Gourmet Chef achievement. A quick check of the perfection tracker revealed we officially reached 100% on day 499. Ah, happy cursor dances. That means, on day 500, I met Lunna at the summit for that final cutscene. To let you in on a little secret here, I didn't actually know till I scripted this day that this is day 500. You'd think I'd have planned this, but really I didn't. This is wild. What a 5 years it's been. Even if we did sleep for like 2 of them, but whatever, we did it okay. And hey, look at that! This is the first time since our first Stardew Valley Expanded playthrough that the cutscene hasn't been broken. I think that's something to celebrate in and of itself, and Lunna's one is super cute too. She's really grateful to have had someone to get to know her story and accept her as she is. Now I'm not gonna lie, this is absolutely not how I expected this video to go. I was so set and ready to have everything finished in year 3, but this is me we're talking about. I don't do planning. But the best part about all of this is how much more in depth these mods ended up being than I could ever have expected. Have you guys reached perfection with these mods before? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear about your experience, and if you're still playing through them, what's your favourite part? As you all know, I adore making these 100 day style videos for you, and next up is 100 days of Graveyard Keeper, which I've actually been streaming too, by the way. The full gameplay streams are in the description. I'm now running a couple of polls on the channel for what type of content you'd like to see in the future, so do check the link down below and have your say. And if you're a channel member at Blueberry or Cranberry level, I have an extra special poll for you in the description too. This is to vote on the next 100 days video, which I'll be releasing after Graveyard Keeper. This poll should be running for at least the next few weeks, so it's not too late to join down below and have your say. Please do leave a like if you made it this far. This really has been quite the adventure, and subscribe for even more 100 days content coming soon. Thank you so much to my channel members, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!